The nuclear capabilities of the world. Early in 1939, when the world was riddled with uncertainty regarding the war that was just on the horizon, the scientific community discovered that German physicists had learned the secrets of splitting a uranium atom. Fears spread quickly over the possibility that Nazi scientists could utilize this energy in order to produce a bomb of unspeakable precedence, and two important scientists fled Europe to seek refuge in the United States of America. These scientists were Albert Einstein and Enrico Fermi, who firmly urged President Roosevelt to start an atomic research program. The president saw neither the necessity nor the urgency that the scientists spoke of, but he agreed to slowly implement the research program in the years going forward. In 1941, the American effort to design and build an atomic bomb was given its code name, the Manhattan Project. Since the 1940s, the development of nuclear weapons has gone through unprecedented change, and in the modern age, there are an estimated 14,000 total nuclear warheads present throughout the world. Countries have built and protected themselves with forces beyond human comprehension, and as such, the looming threat of nuclear war is always on the horizon. How likely is such a war, and what would it look like for the average citizen? That's what we'll be discussing today. The stockpiles. As aforementioned, there are currently around 14,000 nuclear warheads present within the world, down from a high of around 70,000 in the mid-1980s. Those warheads, however, are not distributed evenly at all amongst the countries that hold them. There are currently 8 states in the world that hold nuclear weapons, and they fall into 2 groups: those who have signed the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation on Nuclear Weapons, otherwise known as the NPT, and those who have elected not to sign it. There is also one more country that counts as a sort of edge case, and we'll explain that when we get to it. The United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and China are all countries that hold nuclear warheads and have also signed the NPT. These countries have agreed to stop producing nuclear weapons and have also agreed to slowly reduce their stockpile over time because they agree that nuclear weapons are a threat to the world as a whole. The treaty has a lofty goal of a world without nukes, but it isn't enforced by a single governing body. Instead, the 5 countries are pretty much responsible for keeping the others in check. There are also 3 countries that possess nuclear weapons that elected not to sign the treaty, with those being India, Pakistan, and Israel. They chose not to sign because according to the treaty, the number of countries allowed to possess nuclear weapons would be capped at 5, with those being the ones that already possessed the weapons. India, Pakistan, and Israel hadn't developed their nuclear program yet, but they were currently in the process of doing so, and didn't want to slow down or stop their own development. North Korea is the edge case we spoke about earlier, as they were a signatory of the NPT when it was first developed. When the USA accused them of developing a secret uranium enrichment program, however, it withdrew from the treaty and have since been working with nuclear materials largely outside of the world's eye. North Korea doesn't share information with the rest of the world, so all we can do is guess as to their progress. And it's currently assumed that they do have nuclear weapons capable of reaching the West. With the knowledge of who possesses nuclear weapons, there also comes the question as to the number of them owned. Many won't be surprised that Russia and the United States have the largest stockpile, with 5,428 and 5,977 nuclear warheads respectively. It may sound like the United States and most of the West are safe, but the truth of the matter is that even a single nuclear warhead has the capability to cause mass destruction. That leads us to the actual probability of a nuclear war, the likelihood of nuclear war occurring. With how long nuclear weapons have existed, some are surprised that we made it this long without a full-blown nuclear war. A majority of the reason for this, however, is because of the principle of mutually assured destruction. This basically says, if you shoot a nuke at me, I'll shoot all my nukes at you, and it's actually worked quite well for the past couple decades. China and India have a no first use policy in effect, meaning that if another country does not launch nuclear weapons first, they will never use them. The UK has also stated that they won't use their nuclear weapons unless a weapon of mass destruction is used against their own troops. The United States has always been vague about their use of nuclear weapons, but currently claims that they own them as a deterrent in the hopes that they will scare other countries to the point where they won't use their own. Russia dropped its own no first use policy in 1993, though for several years after that it maintained that it would only use them to protect Russian troops. We'll come back to Russia in a moment. France and Pakistan have policies similar to those aforementioned, stating that they will only use their nuclear weapons if their troops or their country is under attack. That leaves Israel and North Korea. Israel has not officially confirmed owning nuclear weapons, and therefore they haven't made a statement on their use. North Korea shares very little information about the use of their nuclear weapons, but with the few that they have, it's likely they could be intercepted before they hit the ground in the West. Coming back to Putin and Russia, we're seeing a deeply unsettling shift due to the war occurring in Ukraine. He has stated that he is willing and ready to use nuclear force in order to protect his troops within Ukraine, and that it was no bluff. The other nuclear weapon holders are taking him seriously, and have told him that the consequences would be dire. As of the moment, they have not elaborated on what those consequences would be, When a nuclear bomb hits the ground, a massive fireball is created that completely vaporizes anything within a certain radius around it, depending on how large the bomb actually is. This can range from a few miles to over 100 miles, and the debris vaporized by this fireball is carried up into the sky in the telltale mushroom cloud. Any citizens within that radius will almost certainly die, and any outside of it for another undetermined radius will be met with an equally terrible fate. The nuclear waste in the air will poison them, and radiation poisoning is impossible to cure. So while the risk of nuclear war is admittedly rather small at this moment, it's imperative to watch Putin's actions to ensure that nuclear weapons aren't brought into the mix. Delivery and defense mechanisms. The delivery method of nuclear weapons is one of the most important aspects of their use because it determines how they will impact the country, as well as how they will be defended against. Generally, there are three strategic delivery systems utilized by most countries in possession of nukes, and those are long-range bombers, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and submarine-launched ballistic missiles. Long-range bombers have largely faded out of use due to the infrequency of nuclear threats, as well as the fact that they require traveling in a foreign territory. They were fighter jets capable of loading up both conventional and nuclear munitions, which could be fired at will by the pilot. Intercontinental ballistic missiles are generally what most people think of when they hear nuclear weapon. They are massive ballistic missiles with a range of greater than 3,400 miles, primarily designed to carry a nuclear warhead to a foreign country. Most modern iterations actually support multiple independently chargeable re-entry vehicles, which allows a single missile to carry several warheads, each with the capability of striking a different target. ICBMs in the early days were very imprecise, only able to hit large targets such as cities. As time went on, however, and they were improved upon, they are now precise enough to hit a point with a couple of meters precision, meaning they could be used to strike troops directly if the need ever arose. Submarine-launched ballistic missiles are actually quite similar to ICBMs. They have a range of over 3,000 miles, and in many cases are in the same weapons family as their land-based counterparts. The biggest difference, of course, is that they are able to be launched from anywhere in the world via submarine, meaning that a submarine close to the final destination will be able to hit its target before a counterattack can even be arranged. With so many different launch methods, it only makes sense that each of the countries will have developed its own nuclear defense systems, intending to protect its citizens. The UK, France, and Italy actually worked together in order to create a program called POEMS, otherwise known as Sea Viper. This employs a series of Horizon-class frigates with the capability of detecting, locking onto, and destroying any missiles heading toward one of the respective countries. The system as a whole is able to launch 16 guided missiles at once and has a respectable reload time of only 10 seconds. India developed the Ballistic Missile Defense Program, which is a double-tiered system consisting of 2 interceptor missiles. This shield would allow India to intercept any single ICBM, though the time to reset the system is currently unknown. Israel currently operates the Arrow missile system, which is a family of anti-ballistic missiles designed to stop any incoming threats, nuclear or otherwise. It was funded partially by the USA, which has drawn some heavy criticism considering Israel's current stance on nuclear weapons. China's anti-missile system has had a patchy history, and it's actually currently unknown as to whether it is fully operational. Russia's A-135 anti-ballistic missile system is one of the most advanced protective systems in the world, which of course makes sense considering their superpower status. The system consists of 5 different anti-ballistic missiles, all with different operating capabilities, but the system as a whole allows the interception of missiles traveling at 5 kilometers per second. This is generally the speed at which most ICBMs travel, so it's generally believed that Russia would be able to intercept most nuclear warheads unless there was a full-scale attack by the United States. That brings us, however, to the United States. For one of the most nuclear-capable countries in the world, its current nuclear defense system is rather lacking. They had a massive one during the Cold War, but most of it was dismantled during the nuclear de-escalation period. Currently, the United States NMD program is operational with limited capability, designed to counter a relatively small ICBM attack from a less sophisticated adversary. It would do well against small countries in possession of nuclear weapons, but would not fare well against Russia. It's worth noting, however, that since the conflict began in Ukraine, the system has been slowly modified with more missiles added, as Putin's antics have truly begun to worry the world. So, as we wrap up the video, there are many who believe that nuclear weapons were a mistake and should have never been created. Oppenheimer, the father of the nuclear bomb, lamented his creation until the day that he died. Nuclear war is a terrifying prospect that has the potential to tear apart the entire planet, and having knowledge on this subject is an important part of being an informed citizen. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed learning about the possibilities of nuclear conflict, make sure to subscribe. If you'd like us to make more content about this topic, leave a like and comment down below what you want to see next. Thanks again for sticking around until the end, and we'll see you in the next one.